This is the Reconstructed Man Podcast, and I'm your host, Layne Ingram. The Reconstructed Man Podcast is a place where we explore the transgender experience by sharing our stories and lifting up the voices of others. It is for everybody, trans, cis, and everywhere in between. The show is about building community and connections, and I am so glad you're all here. My guest today is Dawn Ennis. She is an editor, columnist, and regular contributor to Forbes.com. In addition to being an award-winning journalist, she's a television correspondent for Connecticut Voice Out Loud on WTNH-TV and hosts the Rise Up with Dawn Ennis talk show. She is also a regular contributor to CT Voice Magazine, The Daily Beast, The LA Blade, Glad.org, StarTrek.com, Out Magazine, and The Advocate Magazine. In 2013, Dawn was the first transgender journalist to come out in network TV news. She subsequently served as the first out trans editor at The Advocate, LGBTQ Nation, and Outsports.com, where she was managing editor and podcast team manager for 2.5 years. Now, she told me not to read it all, okay? And believe me, there is a lot more about Dawn, and we'll get into that. And you can learn more about her in the show notes on our site as well, reconstructedman.com. But Dawn, welcome, and thank you for being here. How are you today?
I'm well. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I could not have written it better myself.
It's weird where I got that from. It's incredible,
I'm very,
though.
very, very honored to be on your show, Layne. Thank you.
I'm just, reading that out loud and kind of just seeing it. I mean, it means so much to me, right? I mean, I'm looking at all that you've done. You've paved the way for people like me to be able to be on a podcast and have people listen to it. And so reading that, like, you should kind of take a little, whatever, a bow, a curtsy, because fantastic. And thank you for that.
Well, I'm very fortunate that there are a lot of people who saw my example and either avoided the mistakes that I made or were able to make strides that I tried for. I'm very blessed to have friends who have come out since I came out. And if I could be an inspiration to someone, I'm more than happy to do it. I have to say, I would have liked to have done it without all the bad press and tabloid attention. That would have been better.
Right. So let's start there. Sure. There. When
Sure.
did you come out? Right. Like, and who'd you tell first? If you even got to tell.
Well, no, before I came out publicly on Facebook and at work, I came out to my sister. I came out to one of my best friends from my college days. And I came out to a woman who was just a guest. She was a guest on Channel 7 Eyewitness News in New York. And she was an advocate and a gay woman. And I was riding the elevator down to the exit to help her get out of the studio. And I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I told Kathy Renna, by the way, I'm transgender. And I don't know why I told her, but she gave me a big hug. I told her I was trying to figure out how to come out. And one of the other people who was wonderful was Ina Fried, who is a journalist at Axios. And when she came out in 2007 or 8, I can't remember which year, I reached out to her, the stranger, saying, I also want to come out. How do you do it? And she was so kind to talk to me on the phone. And although it took me another 5 years before I was ready to do what she did, she remains a friend to this day.
Yeah, that's so awesome. It's so crazy how you say that, because it's like, that is what it's like, like you start to wonder, think maybe, and it still can take, it still takes a minute, right? You got to be in the right place. You got to be in the right mental support space. Wow. So 12-ish?
2012 was when I decided I could not wait any longer. I started making the plans, telling my boss, coming out to work, coming out to colleagues. And I have to be honest, the way the New York Post put it, I suddenly just walked into work one day. I put on a wig and a black dress and made everyone call me Dawn. That's not how it goes. That wasn't how it went. I had months of working with my employer, with HR. They had me take a day off so they could present the news to colleagues I hadn't broken the news to personally. And they had little groups of 3 people who interacted with me so they could raise concerns and say, I don't feel comfortable with this, or what's it going to be like? And when I walked in the office, people just saw me as another woman. It wasn't Dawn wearing a dress and a wig. It was Dawn Ennis finally being herself. But yeah, I worked on it a long time. I would say age 4 was when I realized that I wasn't like these other people who were boys. And I talked to my mom about it, but she didn't believe it. And I tried again when I was going through beginnings of puberty. I tried again when I was 30. I tried again when I was in my 40s. And finally, like I said, in 2012, a good thing that I think people say is that when you figure out that you can't live pretending to be someone you're not, that's when it's time. And Layne, I had spent a lot of time doing part-time. I called it my Clark Kent Supergirl days, and trying to live both lives. And I'd spent a week, my birthday week in 2013 in March, and I went on a road trip. I wanted to connect the people I knew on Facebook, my Facebook family, in real life, so I could meet them and see how they're living and live as myself, my true self, for a whole week. When I get back to the office, I went into the men's room and I changed out of my clothes back into the clothes I was expected to wear. I took off this hair that I wear because I don't want to have a bald head. And I looked in the mirror and I was startled. It was the first time in a week I had seen his face and I didn't recognize it. Ina called that the aha moment. It's that moment when you realize that living as your true self is the way to go.
Is that you were right, and you're not weird, and you're not wrong.
I'm
One
weird.
thing, I mean, but you're regular weird. I'm weird. Yeah, we're regular weird.
We're good kind of weird, right?
Yeah. So get this. So I want to dig into something real quick because again, this is something that I don't know that cis people, people outside the community really get, right?
Okay.
Talk about that moment where you couldn't do it anymore. Like, I mean, that alone is the argument of people don't just do this. This isn't fun. And like oftentimes you don't know. There's so much that has to go into it. And talk a little bit about that, when it's like, it's unbearable. Like I cannot do it. Like once you realize that you're trans and it's like, I have to go. I have to be me.
Yeah. I would say that I was in the office. And I mean, when I was younger, I knew that being around the girls felt more comfortable. I didn't feel comfortable being around the boys. I was probably the one boy that most girls I knew felt very a kinship with, almost like a sisterhood. I had many first dates that ended up being just first dates because girls said, I feel like I'm out with my sister. It doesn't feel right. And it's because they're straight, And when I was at work, I just felt as if I was pretending. I wasn't bringing my true self. Imagine doing anything and leaving some of it home. Imagine not being able to actually be who you really are. And it's not like we want to be gay or trans or lesbian in the office. It's not like we're going to start, acting out on our sexual orientation or our gender identity. It's just that we're not being true. We're pretending. And I'll be honest, Layne, you're an example of a great man. I was surrounded by a lot of, a lot of not so good guys. And I did a great imitation of a real dick. I did a great imitation of a hard ass, of a mean guy, of a homophobe.
Of a man.
A man who basically treated women like crap. And I was just not a good guy. And I think that scared a lot of people when they thought, wait, Dawn Ennis is going to come out as a woman? I'm like, that wasn't really me. That was just act that I modeled on what I saw. So I just emulated crappy men. And I don't want to say any curse words on your show. I'll just tell you, I had a lot of bad role models. And my dad, when he passed away in 2006, he was the last good man I really knew. And his passing was really the trigger. I realized just how much life is short and that I only had one opportunity here. It's like a dividing line in my life, like 9/11, the world before and the world after. My father's death, including for my BFF, she also, after her father's death, came to a realization that why wait any longer? This has got to change. So it took me 6-7 years, but that was the impetus.
Again, with the similarities, right? But it expresses itself in different ways. Like I think about when I look back on how I used to be, right? Like I've always dressed the same way, if you will, but like when I think back, like I feel like such a pretender, because I was putting myself in those clothes and portraying myself away, but like that, I was just trying to be me, and the freeness of, here's the thing. My clothes didn't change from the Thursday I came out at work to the next Monday when I came back. But I did. My brain did. My brain was like, these people know. You know, I mean, I'm loving this right now. Okay, here's a good one. Well,
let me just tell you a quick story, Layne, about clothes, right? So I used to get a lot of compliments from the women in the office. Well, Dawn, I just think it's wonderful that you like wearing bright colors. It's so nice to see a man wearing something other than gray and black and blue, because that's what guys wear, right? Not every guy, just a lot of cisgender straight guys. Hello, look at you, right? Pink is a very macho color, in my opinion, but a lot of office wear, it's black and gray and brown and black, blah. And I couldn't stand it. So I was always wearing bright colors, bright ties, and bright pants. And women are always like, it's so nice to see a man who's so comfortable in his own colors. I'm like, yeah, you don't know anything.
You're like, if you only knew.
If you only knew. But go ahead, Layne. You had another great question.
I hope it's great. It's just that there's a lot of attention, right, going at our community. A lot of negative, ugly, transphobic, ignorant attention right now. And the thing that's hitting me the most is that me as a trans man, and real quick, I want to go back. The reconstructed man, the reason why I called it that is because...
Yeah, why is that?
Let's talk about what it means to be a man. I'm a man, right? But I don't have to be a toxic, masculinity, misogynistic man. I can be a man that is in touch with his feelings. I can be a man that understands what it's like to have gone through, what women have to go through every month. So you know what I mean? Like, let's reconstruct what that really means and what we expect out of each other, what we need from each other, and what society tells us we have to be, right? Because you're going to tell me I'm not a man? No, you're not.
No, not me. You. Gender roles are BS, but I do embrace the binary for myself.
Sure.
But I respect everyone who lives in the non-binary world, and those who are able to transition, and that's what it is. Gender transition is not really a change as much as it is an affirmation.
Yes.
You were able to show the world the man that was inside. Yep. I was able to show the woman who I had hidden.
I say that I've grown up. Like the way I look at it, like I grew up to be me. You know, and I think part of me has to look at it that way because I came out at 36, I
was 49. Don't feel so bad.
No, I know. But don't you look and be like, man, all those years, right? I mean, I'm so happy. But like,
oh, I hear you.
I just look at it like this is what I would have ended up looking like if I had, if it had gone right. Okay, so here's my question.
Go ahead.
I think that right now in our society, it's easier for me to walk around and be in spaces and live and than my trans sisters, and I hate it, and it is affecting, and it's hitting me so hard right now. And I just wonder, what is it like right now being a trans woman? Like tell the people that listen to my show or watch it what it's like to be a trans woman right now.
I'm going to tell you something first that I don't think your viewers or listeners know about either. When you walk down the street, some women are going to be scared. Some women are going to see a man and say, uh-oh, there's a strange man. I don't know who he is. They don't know your history. They're just going to judge your facial hair, your muscles, and color. And they will judge your color. There's no doubt about that. We can't escape that. But they will see a man, right? When you're a race like that, when trans men don't get the ability to be queer and by strangers, that's a real crime. And one of the things I have about this whole trans men versus trans women thing is trans women have eaten up so much of the oxygen, both from being targeted, from being in the media, from basically erasing trans men from the story. I want to tell more stories about trans men whenever possible, because I think, for goodness sake, you are reconstructed and evolved. What's it like for me?
Well, and on the flip side, I want to protect you. Like, I know. You know what I mean? Like
I do, and I want that too.
And that's another thing that is just so. And you can swear on this show. I put the rating on it. That's just shitty about this. You know what I mean? Because,
well, fuck yeah,
I'm right. I'm not. Those of us that can speak up and speak out, we should, right? Like, I will continue to speak up and speak out. There's some of us that can't for whatever reason, but it's like I don't love the erasure either.
No.
But we have to make sure that, like, I'm always going to stand in front and behind you guys. Always. You win.
I know.
I've stopped saying guys, but I do that.
But I'm good with that. Don't worry about it. I say it to people all the time, but then I often do what you do, which is correct, saying, oh, I don't mean to be offensive. One of the things is that testosterone for trans men lowers your voice and gives you a deeper voice.
Oh, yeah.
Hormones don't do that for women. Hormones don't affect our voices. We work, at least some of us do, not all of us do. A lot of us work on our voices. My voice is definitely in an octave range that is higher than it was before I transitioned. But I know plenty of trans women who talk in their same voice that they've always had. And that puts some people off. And if I'm not careful, just today I was talking to the unemployment office, and you know what they said? Well, sir. And I'm like, I am not a sir. I said, I mean, I have a sweet, beautiful, high voice like yours, but that doesn't mean you assume after I tell you my name is Dawn, after I tell you everything about me, that I'm a man. But people hear what they want to hear. What's the other thing? Being a trans woman is about being judged. People want to know what's in your pants. They want to know what's between my legs, not what's between my ears. They want to know if I've had the surgery. You know what I say when someone asks me, have you had the surgery? Oh, can I ask a personal question? Have you had the surgery? I always say, if it's a woman, have you had a pap smear lately? How did that go? Or if it's a man, how was your prostate exam? Tell me all about it. And they will always go, whoa, that's too personal. I'm like, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. It's none of your business.
Right.
And I'm very upfront. I had my surgery in 2018. I'm very happy because of it. And I'm sure that it's not for everybody, but it was for me. I wanted to have every part of me be as female as possible. And that's why I reject things like biological male. I'm not a biological male. I have biology. My biology is female. Every part of it. Been on hormones more than 10 years now, 11 years, I think it is. My goodness. Every part of me is female. And it doesn't matter what my chromosomes say, because when's the last time anybody checked anybody's chromosome?
How do you go about checking my chromosomes?
Yeah. Excuse me, before you go in that bathroom, can you show me your chromosomes, please?
Right.
What? So it's about, first of all, a Black trans athlete I know, Cece Telfer. Her mother disowned her. She doesn't have many friends. You know who she has? People like us on the internet, on the interwebs. My BFF, I mentioned, Maya Monet, lives alone down in Central Florida. Who does she have? One or two friends, but mostly it's the community who watches her YouTube channel. A lot of us trans people, I'm sure this is true for trans men too, we don't have family. Our families have either forced us out of our homes, our kids have rejected us. Not in my case, my kids love me. Thank goodness for that.
Thank goodness.
But a lot aren't so lucky. And their spouses have gone on, either gotten remarried or stopped talking to them. Parents have disowned them. That happened to me. It's a lonely life. And thank God for the internet, because then you have at least something.
Right.
But it's even worse when...
Sorry, I didn't mean to do...
No, go ahead. You please finish your thought.
Community is just so important, you know? And
it is.
When you were talking about great things, right? But I could hear there's just so much pain. There's pain. Yeah. There's pain in being transgender, and it's unavoidable, even in the best case scenario situations. Like, I would call my experience pretty good. I had a good experience coming out at work. My family has come around, you know, I didn't lose, you know, I mean, and people are so much less fortunate, but like, there's still pain. And like, even in your voice, like, think about all of the things that you've gone on to do. Think about, you know, the fact that you feel the most like yourself. Like, I can hear it, you know why I can hear it? Because I experienced it. And that's what people need to understand, is that we're really talking about life and death, and we're really talking about people being who they are, right? It's
easier now than it was. In 2013, when I came out, there really weren't a lot of role models. There was Laverne Cox. And I was welcomed at work. I mean, it was wonderful. But then came the tabloid. So I was the first one in television network news. And that came with a lot of reporters hiding in bushes. Shock jocks mentioning my name. People ambushing my kids. Reporters knocking on the neighbors' doors. Hey, do you know the tranny who lives next door? And I wasn't prepared for that. I was prepared to be myself. But 2 months of that, May, June, July, it got to be too much. And a circuit breaker went off, something in my head. I ended up in a hospital. I was a psychiatric patient. I lost it. I was deluded. I thought it was 1999. I didn't know what happened. I had gone back to a safe place in my life when I was only 35, happily married, pretending to be a man, and not in any awareness at all of being trans. And it took me a long time to find my way back out of that closet I put myself into. People thought I was crazy. Work thought I was crazy. And it took a long time before I was ready to actually step back out of the closet and reclaim everything I had built. But I lost a lot of cred. A lot of people thought this person made it harder for me. My detransition made it harder for other trans people because a lot of hurt went into that. And people would say things like, why can't you be like Dawn Ennis? Why can't you go back?
But see, that's the thing, Dawn. And there's a, I don't know if you saw it, but there was an extensive study about this, right? And the results said, and I'm gonna say this in a nutshell, the people that detransition, which is a very, very small percentage,
very
of people
small number
who detransition, the main factor and reason behind their detransition is the societal pressure, the feelings of abandonment, the
rejection,
the rejection, right? I mean, so that's still, I mean, you're only human, right? So we only have a couple minutes left. I like to keep these short for people. So I want to know, before we go, tell me, what's the most normal thing about you?
I am a Mets fan. I love my Mets. Ever since I was born, I was a Mets fan. My father, was a Mets fan before me. He was a Dodgers fan. And when the Dodgers left Brooklyn, there was no way he could become a Yankees fan or a Giants fan. So I love baseball. I love my Mets. Also, I'd say the other normal thing about me is a lot of women told me that I gave them a very bad reputation. And you wonder, what are you talking about? My dad called me Crash Ennis. I am a really bad driver. I have been in a lot of accidents. And people said that when I transitioned, I was giving women drivers a bad name. Good news is I haven't had an accident in 7 years. 7 years of an accident, except in Ireland where I, rolled the car. But no, except for that in 2017. Okay, but except for that, no, everything's been great. I used to also have a lead foot. And I was once pulled over by a state trooper. And when she came up to the window, she said, "Oh, you again?" So
wow.
I've cured myself of those normal things. Those are my normal things. I'm a bad driver and I used to speed, and I'm a Mets fan.
I love that. I mean, again, just people, right? Just people.
Yeah.
I'm so happy to talk to you.
Layne? Being trans is the 5th most interesting thing about me.
I'm trying to tell you, I just happened to be, it just happened to be.
That's it.
It just happened to be. And but again, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of us for just telling our stories and whatever.
I'm proud of you too.
Whatever you do next, let's stay in touch. Let's be friends. All right.
Absolutely.
What should people do? How can people get in touch? Should they get in touch with you? Should they look on a website? What should they do?
Don't come to my house. No, seriously. Life after Dawn. When I was still living in my other life, I was envisioning what the world would be like. And I created a social media blog and platform and everything else. Life After Dawn. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Life After Dawn. And
awesome.
I'm pretty much everywhere. If you do Google me, don't believe what you read. Most of it's trash.
Awesome. You heard that. Life After Dawn. Check her out. She's awesome. All right. People who are listening, I need something from you. If you have an idea, if you have a question, send me an email, thereconstructedman@gmail.com. Learn more about the show at thereconstructedman.com. Subscribe on YouTube, listen on Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you enjoy your podcast. I'd love to
give them a good review too.
yeah, do that. Hit the like button. Remember, always be you because nobody can do you better than you. My name is Layne Ingram, and this is the Reconstructed Man Podcast.